Do you ever feel like you can't raise your rates in your bridal business because something bad is going to happen? What if I told you it's actually all in your head? Many bridal hairstylists and makeup artists really self sabotage. They hold themselves back from setting the rates that make the most sense for their business, and they hold themselves back from the success that they could be getting. When you have the right rates for your business and you raise them consistently in order to improve your business and improve your life and improve your client experience, that's when you're able to build and grow and sustain your business long term. If you are holding yourself back from raising your rates because you're scared that something is going to happen, you're really setting yourself up for disaster long term. Raising your rates may be scary, but in the end, it will impact so many areas of your life and your business for the better. On today's episode, I am breaking down the biggest roadblocks I see bridal artists run into when it comes to raising your rates and help you to set a plan to do so with confidence. When it comes to raising your rates, a huge problem that I see people have is that they don't have a plan for it. They think they have a plan, and it usually comes as a result of two situations in their business. One, they realize that they're not making a high enough profit and they're having problems in their business. So the quick solution is raise their rates. The other thing is it is just a yearly increase. It's something that they do once a year and they don't necessarily have a plan for it beyond that. It is now November 1st. We're setting the rates for the new year because that's what everybody does at the beginning of engagement season. And boom, there you go. And then you're stuck with those same rates, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, until the next November 1st. That, my friends, is not a plan. And it's also not a sustainable way to run your business. So we are in March of 2025 when I am filming this. Now, what is happening in the world right now is a little bit crazy. Our economy here in the United States is egg prices are beyond ridiculous as a result of a whole bunch of things. But it's a good example of how quickly things outside our business and outside of our control can impact how our expenses are managed. So something like the bird flu that impacted egg prices a few months ago. Here in Virginia, we had a huge snowstorm right around the time that the bird flu was hitting. Everybody cleared out all of the eggs on the shelves, and it took about a month for them to actually even come back and be restocked. There's a specific brand that I always buy, the Happy Egg Company. I find that they're just personally the best tasting ones. It took a month for my grocery stores to even start restocking them. They jumped from $6.99 a dozen to $9.19 a dozen. That is a 33% increase. A third of what they cost is what they were raised by. It's a big jump, over $3 per dozen. So that's just an example of how things beyond your control can impact how you need to think about how your prices are affecting your daily life. Are you able to still get the same out of your expenses, your bills, paying for things from what you're charging? Are you making enough profit to support your life? There's always going to be things that are going on outside of your control that are going to be impacting how your money is spent outside of your business. And there's always going to be things that are impacting your profitability as a hairstylist or as a makeup artist. If you're only changing your prices once a year, you're not taking into account how those outside factors are affecting your profitability and how your profitability is impacting your daily life. And if you're only raising your rates as a response to this negative impact on your life, you are not setting yourself up for success. That's when you're going to see higher rates of ghosting, and you're going to hear a lot more people saying no if they do get back to you because you didn't have this plan set in place. You're being either reactive or you're not being strategic about when you raise your rates. How do we fix this problem? How do we be more intentional about raising our rates? The first thing that I want you to do when it comes to being more intentional about raising your rates is really do a deep dive. I want you to take a look at your profitability. Don't look at what other people are charging. That is not the first step into understanding your profitability. No. You want to take a look at your expenses. You want to take a look at your expenses in your daily life, and you want to take a look at your expenses inside your business. How much money do you need to support your daily life? How much profit do you need to be making? And what's the volume of bookings that you need in order to get that profit? What you're going to end up doing is breaking things down and trying to figure out, this is my max capacity, this is my minimum capacity, and this is the overall profit that I need to make in order to support my daily life. Now, I talk a lot more about this and I give you the actual math problems to figure all of this stuff out, as well as an interactive Excel spreadsheet that you can plug numbers in and it spits all the stuff out for you so you don't actually have to do the math inside of my ultimate pricing guide for bridal artists. I'll put the link to that down below if you're interested in checking that out. But you want to figure out how much money you need to make, what your volume of bookings needs to be, what your minimum and your maximum, and then use that to start to figure out, where do you need to set your prices. Once you know how much money you need to make, then you go about looking at a deep dive inside your business. How much does it cost to run your business? And I don't want you to just think about the raw expenses. I want you to also understand and factor in the amount of time that you spend doing all of your tasks. I hate when people say it's a cost of doing business. You have to spend the time doing this. That's what it takes to run a business. If you had a traditional job, somewhere where you clocked in and clocked out, whether it was behind a desk, working at a makeup counter, hell, even if you were working at McDonald's, from the moment that you start working until the end, you're getting paid. You don't check in somewhere and start working, and then when you hit a point, they're like, now we'll pay you. You are getting paid for all of the work that you're doing. And just because we run our own business doesn't mean that some of our time is free and some of our time we actually make money for. All of the time, every single step of the way, all of the tasks that we do need to be compensated for. And a lot of people leave that part out of the puzzle. They just look at I'm physically doing hair, I'm physically doing makeup, or they look at travel time. This is how much time I spend in the car, and they maybe factor in a little bit for cleaning their kit, packing their kit, whatever. All of the time that you spend. That means every single inquiry that you waste your time on that does not end up booking you, that does not translate into money inside your bank account, that is not free labor. That needs to be accounted for. So when you are setting your rates and you're getting a lot of ghosting because you didn't think about the process properly and you didn't plan out strategic price increases, you are now wasting a lot of time that you're, quote unquote, not making money for. So it's really important to understand not just your raw costs, but all of your time costs that goes in, and set yourself a budget. So when you understand, this is how much time I need to be spending on because this is how much my time costs per hour, you can add that into your overall expenses and have a more accurate understanding of what your profit margins are. So take a look, do a deep dive at that and figure out, what's the difference between the two? What rates do you actually need to be charging to make enough profit to cover your time and pay for your daily life? Once you have those numbers, that's where the strategy starts to come in. That's when you can start to plan, because you understand what your expenses are and you understand what your needs are. And when any of those two fluctuate, that's when you can make changes to your pricing structure in order to accommodate. So if things are happening in your life where expenses are going up, now it's time to maybe take a look at adjusting your prices. But it doesn't mean you just jump into eggs are more expensive or my electricity's gone up, etc. I'm going to be reactive and I'm going to raise my rates. You want to make sure that you're setting up the plan to say, this is what's happening. Here's how much I need to raise things. What is my process going to be for that in order to not suddenly be wasting all of this time on the back end and all of this admin, because then that's adding to your expenses. And that's actually going to end up eating up any price increase that you do. So that's why we need to be really strategic with it and not be reactive. And what I actually end up recommending to almost everybody who comes through my one-on-one coaching is to have periodic price increases that you plan out in advance so that you can create this system and you can go through this step-by-step process. Then you have the price increase. And then you go through again the next step-by-step process, you repeat the process, you have a price increase. And there's specific thresholds that I go through. It's all going to be inside of that pricing guide that I've created for what those thresholds are and how to map that all out. But when you decide for yourself, I'm going to do these periodic increases, you're not just waiting to be reactionary and you're not just doing it once a year. Because one full calendar year is way too long. Too many things can happen. Like I said, your life expenses could go up, or as we're seeing a lot in the industry right now with tariffs inside the United States, most of the products that we use for our hair and our makeup business are going to be subject to these tariffs and these price increases. Most cosmetic and beauty manufacturers are outside the United States. And if they're not outside the United States, the raw materials that they need are outside the United States. I'm already seeing beauty companies outside of the US, the ones in Canada or whatever, who are saying, hey, before tariffs hit, make sure you go in and you order all of these things now. I knew about the tariffs way back in November. As soon as the election happened, you know what I did? I went and I placed a huge order from Shein because that's where I get most of my disposables. I placed an order that's going to cover me for about 2 to 3 years worth. I know to the dollar how much my budget is for my disposables and things like that. So I knew if I want to stay locked in at these prices, I need to place a big bulk before I know all of these prices are suddenly going to be going up. I made sure to order from my manufacturers for cosmetics and other things that were outside of the United States, in Canada. I placed a big order, and again, in order to hold me over because I knew these price increases were coming. It's kind of like twofold. One, have strategic price increases, but also I want you to be like really aware and paying attention to what's going on in the world. Now, if you're probably like me, when I was in my 20s, I did not give a fuck about politics. I was like, no, I am not that old. I don't need to pay attention. This doesn't affect me, etc., etc. The time for that is over. Unfortunately, what's going on in politics and even just United States politics, that's really impacting everywhere in the world. I really think you should be paying more attention to what's going on because it's going to impact the economy, and then that's going to impact your personal expenses and your business expenses. Understanding your expenses, understanding what's going on inside the world, and then setting up strategic price increases so that you can repeat the same system and smoothly go through and raise your rates every X number of months or until you hit the thresholds that I recommend. You're not having to second guess this process. You're going through everything in an order that makes setting your new rates super smooth and super easy. Just because somebody contacts you in March of 2025 for a 2026 wedding doesn't mean that if they don't book until September that that's the same rate that you quoted them in March. Your prices can raise way more often than you're probably thinking that they can. And you might be holding yourself back and being really scared and being like, if I raise my rates, then I'm not going to book as many people, or I'm going to have to pay more attention. And what if I raise things? And what if they contact it? Nope. Set up yourself a system. It makes it super easy. Really understanding your numbers and having this process takes away all of that. It won't impact you the way that you think that it will because you have a system in place. So that's really just the most important tip that I can really give you is making sure that you have a system, making sure that you, one, understand your numbers, and two, understand the process of going from point A to point B. So you can hit all of these little stepping stones along the way and get there. And it's just an easily repeatable process that you can do as often as makes sense for you and your business. And then that way, outside factors are not impacting you. You're not being reactionary, you're being consistent, and you're understanding and you're knowing when it's time to raise my rates. I've already set myself up for success so that when I raise them, boom, now I'm just making higher profit margins. Another thing that I see people really running into is not understanding how to justify the price increases. And this is part of making a plan for your price increases rather than being reactionary. If you are being reactionary, or if you're just doing it once a year, your excuse, so to speak, for why you've raised your rates is because it's a new year. What does that actually fucking mean? Who cares that it's a new year? What does that actually mean? What does that mean for you with your personal expenses? What does that mean for you as a business owner? And what does that mean for your brides? How do you justify it being a new year? Doesn't matter. That doesn't mean a damn thing. Prices change consistently throughout the year. So if you're just doing it based on it's a new year, it's really hard to justify that. If your price is one price on December 31st, why is it suddenly worth more on January 1st? Why? Can you actually answer that? You need to understand how to justify and how to articulate that to your clients. So, how do you do that? First of all, you need to release the guilt. Prices go up in every industry all the time. It's not like we hit this magical rollover on the clock and everybody's price tags roll over and now it's a new year, so now it's a new price. It's going up all the time. So when you can understand how to increase the value and articulate the value, it's not so much based on time and what the date is. It's based on what are people getting? Are they getting anything more from you now that your rate is higher than they were getting before? Or not. And now we don't also need to think about, I need to suddenly always be giving more and doing more in order to justify a price. Yes, it is okay that your expenses have gone up and now your prices have to go up as well. That doesn't mean we necessarily articulate it to clients that way. Our price is just our price. When it comes to justifying our prices, we don't need to actually articulate and justify. That's where most people go wrong. I see people all the time in like Facebook groups and online and threads and whatever, and they talk about a bride has come back and said that I'm too expensive, and they have this whole long justification email that they have typed up and are ready to send out and be like, I charge for this, 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 this. Or they post a reel or something passive aggressive online being like, this is why this costs this much or whatever. And these are what all my expenses are. Nobody actually cares about what it costs for you to run your business. We know that prices for things go up, and that means that we have to charge more. It is a part of doing business. It is an understanding that consumers have. But what they really care about is what's in it for them. First of all, stop trying to justify your prices and instead articulate value. When your rates go up, what is the value behind that? It means you're charging more in order to consistently deliver the same level of results. If your expenses have gone up, but your prices haven't, you are operating off of a loss now. When your business is consistently operating under a loss, what happens? You don't deliver the same level of quality. Quality has to go down in order to meet those profit margins so that you can stay in business. So if you aren't raising your rates, your expenses are just going to keep going up and people aren't going to be able to get the same out of you. So think of it this way. Have you ever gone to a restaurant and maybe they don't really understand pricing properly and they just keep their rates the same because they don't want to push away people. They are scared of scaring off customers, so they just keep their prices the same. The 10.99 cheeseburger. But as their expenses keep going up, that 10.99 isn't covering it. So the quality of that cheeseburger starts to go down. They're getting cheaper meat, they're getting cheaper buns, the quality of the servers are maybe just not as high. And as a consumer, you notice the quality is starting to go down. The prices are staying the same, but you're not getting the same anymore. So we understand as consumers, prices are just going to have to go up in order to create the same level of experience. You don't need to explain that to people. You just need to explain what the experience that they're getting is. They're getting a delicious cheeseburger. They are getting juicy, cheesy, delicious, fresh ingredients, soft bun, whatever. That's how you sell a cheeseburger. You focus on what are they getting. All of these high quality ingredients served to you with a smile, fresh, hot, delicious. That's how you sell a cheeseburger. Same thing happens when it comes to marketing your business. The pricing is going to go up over time. What are people actually getting? They're getting high quality service. They're getting frequent communication. They're getting high quality products. They're getting a timely response time. They're getting quality makeup, quality hair that lasts, that looks good. They're getting an experienced artist who specializes in the bridal industry. All of these things. Just keep focusing on that and don't focus on what you're charging for it. If you're focusing so much on what you're charging for it, your clients are too. And that's when they start to look at price and start to nitpick things. If you're just focusing on the quality and the experience overall, that's how you level up your marketing. And then whatever your price is becomes justified by the level of quality that they are getting. So that doesn't mean that you talk about, well, I use these luxury products and all this kind of stuff. You just talk about what the end result is. What does your client want? Ultimately, how do they want to feel at the end of the day? You can go back to even last week's episode that I talked about, the problem of the problem or the benefit of the benefit, so that you can put yourself in your client's mindset as well and be like, what problem do they have? And keep going down until you get to what they actually want. Get inside the mind of your client. What is the ultimate end goal? How do they want to feel on their wedding day? What are they scared of? What are their ultimate desires? And focus your marketing around that. And that's how you articulate value. You don't need to justify your prices with any of these extra things that clients may or may not really actually even care about. If you want to talk about, oh, you use luxury products, yeah, you can mention that, but more of that kind of comes from a visual standpoint. What are they seeing in there? And you could be using high-end quality products and just be depotting them, and they're not going to see that packaging anyways. So it really depends on like the mindset of your client. Are they somebody who's going to really ooh and ah over the beautiful packaging from Chanel or Dior or whatever these luxury brands? Are they going to see that, recognize it, and think that's worth what I'm charging? They might not. So you really need to look at who your target market is and understand what they value in order to be able to create content that justifies that in their mind before they even see what the price is. Now, when you do go through things inside of your business where you're leveling up that experience and you're not just raising your prices to keep up with inflation, there are things that you do inside your business that create a better experience for your brides. And every time you do that, whether you are adding on a new type of service, maybe you're a makeup artist and now you're offering airbrush as an option, instead of just upcharging for it and being like, ooh, you can pay more to get airbrush, just raise your rates and make it an option. Say, if airbrush is the best option for your skin, it's a skill that I have, it is a product that I carry with me, that is an option that we will discuss and we will apply to you if that is what's going to be best for you. You are up leveling your skill, you're up leveling your service options, your prices should be increasing for that. If you now have invested in something like Honeybook or Dubsado or some other background expense that improves your client experience down the line, you need to raise your rates to not only cover the cost as far as expenses, but you're now increasing the value of what they're getting. They're getting a more seamless client experience. You're not having to manually type things out, send them over PDFs. They don't have to sign things, scan them, and send them back. You're simplifying the process. You're making things smoother and easier and a more elevated luxury experience. If you have a new beautiful website that they can communicate with, rather than having to text or DM or Google search for how to even contact you, they have your website and they can see all of these things, and you're not having to, send them a PDF and send them an email and go back and forth about what your booking process is. Your website already answers those questions for them. It sells them on the process. Your prices need to reflect the value of how that impacts their booking process. How does that impact them as a client positively? So it's not just about what your expenses are, but how are you leveling things up? Have you learned new skills? Have you gone to continuing education and you've refined your skills? You become a better hairstylist. You become a better makeup artist. Increase your rates. You are increasing the value of what they're getting out of booking you. Your prices should increase for that. That doesn't mean that you sit there and you suddenly make a post and say, hey, I'm raising my rates because I just took a makeup class. No, that's not how you do it. You're focusing again on price. You can talk in your stories and you can talk in your content about continuing education and how you're constantly making sure to improve your technical skills in order to provide the best level of experience for your clients. So when people inquire and they see your price, that justification has already been built in. They are seeing that you are continually getting better as an artist and they're attracted to that. They value that. So when they see your rates, it's already justified in the back of their mind. You're not having to passive aggressively be like, now I need to charge more. You just charge more. Did my grocery store let me know that the price of eggs is going to be higher when the eggs came back in stock? No, they didn't. Did they need to put up signs and be like, well, because of the bird flu, we had to raise the price of eggs? No, they didn't. I'm going to choose whether or not I want to continue with that specific brand at that price point because that's the type of eggs that I think taste the best. And if I don't think that they're worth that price, I'm going to look at other brands. But that is already in my mind. The grocery store didn't need to tell me that they were changing their prices. You don't need to tell people that you are changing your prices. You don't need to announce a price increase. You don't need to be like, hey, rates are going up soon. Hurry up and book now. That devalues your business in the long run. What you're actually telling them is, I'm going to be raising my rates, but you can get the same experience for cheaper. So when I raise my rates, you're just paying more for the same experience. That's the subliminal messaging that you're saying behind book in now, lock in these rates before the rates go up. You're telling them the rates are just going to go up and you're going to get the same level of experience. So why would you pay more? You're devaluing it. So when people, maybe they're not ready to book right now because they're either looking at other people or they just don't have the funds to send in retainers. If they're spending $40,000 on a wedding, that doesn't mean that the day they start planning a wedding, they have $20,000 in order to pay the 50% retainers to everybody. They have to save these kinds of things up and they have to make these decisions. So if you're trying to pressure them into booking now and focusing so much on price and saying, well, this is what you're going to get, you can either get it for cheaper by booking now or you're going to get it for more expensive later on, they're just going to be like, I'm not ready to book right now. And I know her rates are going to go up. So I'm just going to need to find somebody else who provides the same service and that same quality for a rate that I want to pay. You're not actually incentivizing them to book with you right now if they're not ready. You're just devaluing them and making it less likely for them to come back and book you later when they do have that money and they are ready to book. They're going to be like, oh, she was just trying to pressure me into booking now. And that doesn't always feel good. Now, if people are coming back to you later on and you've already raised your rates, this is a big thing that people have where they're like, if I'm consistently raising my rates, what if somebody comes back to me 4 months later and my price has gone up? If somebody comes back and they're like, why have your prices increased? My rates increase consistently throughout the year as the experience improves. Raising my rates allows me to stay consistent and maintain a high level of luxury and quality for my brides as I improve my business systems. So you can say it to them that way. You can just let them know my price increases periodically to reflect the level of quality that I'm providing to my clients. And that's that. What you can do to be proactive about that is just make sure that every single email that you send has in your signature, prices are subject to change without notice. The only way current pricing will be honored is with a signed contract and retainer. Let them know what the expiration date on your current pricing is. So if they contact you on March 1st and you have a 2-week expiration note, let them know your prices are locked in for the next 14 days should you decide to move forward with your booking, after which they can increase without notice. That lets them know they have a 2-week period to think about it and they can still get the prices. But if your business needs to raise your rates for whatever reason, or if it's time, you hit that threshold or you hit that time frame where it's time to do my increase and they're still thinking about it and they come back, they knew the second that you gave them your rates, this is only guaranteed for 2 weeks and prices can go up. So that's one thing that you can do to be proactive and combat that and not have to worry so much about like, well, what if they come back later? That's their fucking problem. You have to run your business. You still need to maintain the same quality of service to everybody throughout economic changes and as you increase the value of what they're actually getting, whether you're gaining more experience over time, whether you're investing into back-end systems, whether you're investing into coaching, whether you're investing into apps and programs to make their experience better, education into becoming better skilled, or the price of the foundation that you use is now more expensive because it has to be shipped in from Canada or somewhere in Europe, or your disposables come from China and now they're more expensive. You need to charge more. If you are afraid that if you raise your rates, you're going to lose out on bookings, you're going about this process wrong. The purpose to raising your rates is to maintain quality and consistency with your clients to continue to create value. But as your business evolves and as you fill up the number of bookings that you want for your year, the value of your time becomes higher. As you have less availability, the value of that time becomes higher. So I want you to think about the value of your time in a new way. When you are starting to get really booked up and you have less time and less availability, the value of what you have left increases. It's more valuable. So the price needs to be higher. If they want to book you and they want to be one of those last bookings, if they want to take that time off of your calendar, then it needs to be worth more. And I know that that can be tricky to wrap yourself around. We can raise our rates because the value of our time has increased. If we are maxing out on our bookings, We want to raise our rates to cut back on how quickly our inventory is selling out. Sounds crazy, right? We have to think of our time as inventory. As our inventory becomes more limited, it becomes more valuable. It becomes more exclusive. It's worth more. If you are in March of 2025 and you have nothing left for 2025, you are completely booked out, and then say you are booking into 2026, what you have left in 2026 now should be coming at a premium. Because if you book yourself out so much, say you book out the rest of 2026, you still have to go all of 2025 and all of 2026 without taking any new retainers. You are cutting out a huge chunk. You're cutting out what would be 50% of your income potential by your inventory is gone. Your inventory is already sold out. It may seem really amazing to be booked out so far ahead and be like, hey, 2025 is just getting into the bridal season and I'm already completely booked out. Awesome. I feel great about myself. But what you're doing is a disservice to yourself. You have sold out all of your inventory. You have nothing left to sell. So that means your income potential has now been drastically reduced because you can't take any new retainers for 2025 dates. And you think, well, that's fine. I'm just taking them for next year, for 2026. You have a limited inventory for 2026. What if you get to June and you've sold out all of 2026? You have nothing left. Now you have zero inventory. And what you have to do is be like, well, okay, I got to start selling 2027 inventory. Do you know what your life is going to look like inside of 2027? What are your expenses going to be in 2027? What is the economy going to be like? What is politics going to be like? Do you still want to be doing the same volume of weddings? How can you say what your inventory for 2027 is if you haven't even gotten through 2025? So, when you are selling out your inventory, it needs to start getting more expensive. So that way you don't sell out of it so quickly at such a low price that now it's gone and you've cut yourself out of any profits for future dates. It's really important to think about that. Losing out on bookings because you're more expensive is not necessarily a bad thing. As your time becomes more limited, as your inventory becomes lower and lower, it needs to get higher and higher to keep people from booking you. That sounds counterproductive, and it's a really big mind fuck that people have to like really get around, where they're like, but what? But why wouldn't I want to book when I have an opportunity? When somebody says, yes, I love you and I want to pay your current rate, I just want it for a date really far in the future. Why is that so bad? Because your time is going to be worth more then. And if you book that far out so far in advance, you don't know what the value of your time is going to be. You don't know what your inventory is going to be. You don't want so many people booking you. You don't want to go through these huge influxes of all of these retainers and all of these booking, and now your inventory is really, really limited. And then it crashes because you don't have that time. And now you're locked into all of these weddings at this lower rate. So if you're consistently raising your rates over time, you're getting little influxes and then it kind of dips, and then it influxes and kind of dips. And every time you raise your rate, it's going to dip. We want it to. We want it to be a little bell curve. We want it to be a consistent sinus rhythm. All right. We don't want these huge and then drop, and then huge and then drop. We want these little consistent spikes and decreases, spikes and decreases. That is what stays consistent. Your income isn't just going up and then dropping and then going up and then dropping. That is a feast or famine cycle. We want to keep it consistent. And so when you're raising your rates consistently, that's how you stay consistent with your income. You manage your inventory properly. Your time is your inventory. Also, when you raise your rates, you're just naturally attracting more aligned clients with your business. If you are getting a lot of people saying you're too expensive and they don't want to book with you, what that's saying is you're not calling in the right people. You're not targeting your dream clients. If you're just suddenly raising your rates and you're not going through the strategic process of planning out for this higher rate, and you're not proactively justifying the value of what your new rates are going to be in advance of the price increase. It's going to just suddenly be more expensive, and you're speaking to the same bride you've always been speaking to, the one who's expecting to pay this amount. And now you're suddenly charging this amount. There's a disconnect. Those are two different clientele. Now, it doesn't need to be a huge jump. You're not going to be going from like targeting the Walmart shoppers to suddenly, targeting the Neiman Marcus shoppers, but it's going to feel that way with your marketing. You're going to get more people ghosting. You're going to get more people saying, no, it's too expensive, because you're speaking to the people who are willing to pay your old rate and not speaking to the people who are willing to pay your new rate. So part of the process is leveling up your marketing and leveling up your messaging and speaking to the new people who that new price is who you want to speak to. Luxury clients expect to pay more. If you are providing this amazing luxury experience, but you're charging really low, the people who are looking to buy a luxury experience are going to be like, that doesn't match up. That doesn't feel right. They already expect to pay these higher rates because they already understand the value of what you're providing. They already understand the luxury in what you're providing. If you're constantly trying to justify your rates, you're speaking to somebody with a budget mindset. You're not speaking to somebody with a luxury mindset. So if you're trying to charge luxury rates, but you're speaking to a budget person, they're never going to pay it. You're going to always get this disconnect. Suddenly raising your rates, you have to speak differently. You have to change the way that you communicate. You have to change the way that you market, because you have to change who you're marketing to. The higher end people are not going to have a problem with the rates. And people who nitpick over a $5 or a $10 price increase, those are red flags anyways. You don't want those bookings. When you raise your rates, it should be smooth. It should be easy. And that means that you're pulling in the right clients for your price. Everything is already in alignment. If you're getting the ghosting, if you're getting the pushback, it's just because your marketing is not reaching the right people. And if you're not understanding or not quite sure on how to do that and how to understand these things, how to know then who is my client, what is the right price point for them, I walk you through all of that inside of my ultimate pricing guide. Again, I'm going to put the link to purchase that in the description, or if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, I'll pin it in the very first comment. You can find it there too. But I really do. I walk you through the mindset and the step-by-step and how you need to communicate all of those kinds of things to figure out what's in alignment for your target client, and as you raise your rates, how to shift your messaging. It's also something that I go over really, really in depth inside of Unique as Fuck. That is phase 1 of Next Level Bridal Business, but it is a mini course that you can purchase on your own, and it goes really, really deep into the mindset of clientele. It helps you to really understand what are the values, what are the motivators, what are the benefits, what are my dream clients seeking out, how to find the type of dream clients that are in alignment with your business. You might be like, I want to work with ultra luxury people or whatever, because that's what looks and feels good to you, or you just see big numbers and that feels amazing to you. But those aren't the actual people that you want to work with. It's a whole lot of mindset work on figuring out the perfect people for you and the perfect people for your business, and then aligning everything so that when you set your rates, it's already in alignment with that person. So those two kind of resources really work hand in hand together. So I'll put the link to Unique as Fuck in there too if you want more about figuring out who your dream client is and targeting them with your marketing and your messaging and stuff like that. So Ultimate Pricing Guide is really just like how to figure out the numbers side of things, the math side of things, and how to increase over time. Unique as Fuck is a bigger course. There's a lot more modules to it, and it goes more in depth into the sales psychology, the mindset, and figuring out who you want to actually work with. So those are two options for you if you're looking for additional resources after listening to this and being like, yeah, so I have a lot of work to do. I need to figure out the math side of things, but I also need to figure out the sales psychology and the mindset of things. I know what I need to do. I need to figure out, how am I going to put all of this together? How am I actually going to put this into practice? Those two resources are already there and created for you. You can work through that on your own. Or you can just book a one-on-one coaching call with me and be like, here's who I want to work with. Here's what my expenses are. Here's what my rates are. Help me figure this all out. We can take 90 minutes where we sit there and we go through, and then we can set up a specific rate increase plan for you based on your target market, based on your marketing, and put together those step-by-steps. I can help you build that in 90 minutes. That's an option as well. Now, if you have any additional concerns or fears or questions related to pricing, my DMs are always open on Instagram. Feel free to drop me a message and let me know what you're struggling with. If I have a resource that I've already created, I'm more than happy to point you in that direction. Or if I think that working one-on-one is going to be a better option for you, I will always lead you to whatever I think is more beneficial to you in the moment to solve what that problem is. Or if you just have questions or concerns and you're watching this on YouTube, drop those in the comments below. I'll get back to you the same way as I would within a DM. And that is going to be it for this week's episode. If you really enjoyed today's episode about how to raise your rates with confidence, then make sure that you are reading through the description box and checking out some of those additional resources that I've talked about, that I've already created for you. I know that it's going to help you start to put what we talked about into action. It's one thing to listen to what, you should be doing, but it's another to actually take the step forward and be like, I'm going to create this plan. I'm going to level things up strategically. And when you have strategy, that's what builds confidence, because it eliminates the unknown. It takes away the fear and the uncertainty because you have a process already in place. You have a game plan. You're just following all of the steps. And when you do that over and over time, it creates consistency, and consistency builds confidence. Confidence builds results.